The twin moons of Valira hung low, casting their cold light across the silent palace. The great halls, once filled with life and laughter, were now empty and echoing with whispers of fear. At the center of it all lay Queen Siralith, her silver skin pale, her violet eyes dim. For centuries she had ruled with grace and power. But now her world was dying. The air was thin, the oceans dry, and the once proud alien race known as the Valerians was fading. Every newborn in the past 50 years had been stillborn. Every healer had failed. Every prophecy spoke the same truth. The royal bloodline would end, and with it their entire species. Siralith's body trembled as she tried to rise from her bed. The room was surrounded by glowing crystal tubes filled with flickering blue light, their last attempt to sustain her fading life. The High Healer bowed beside her, voice shaking. "Your Majesty, the energy within you is fading faster than expected. Your heart link is unstable." Siralith closed her eyes. Her voice was soft but full of quiet strength. "I know, I can feel it. Like the stars inside me are dying." The council stood in silence. No one dared to speak. They had searched every galaxy, studied every code of life, but nothing could save her. Until that night, a violent tremor shook the palace. The sky outside flashed with red lightning. Guards rushed in. "My queen, a ship has entered the lower atmosphere. It's not one of ours." Everyone turned. The queen's weak eyes flickered open. For the first time in years, a spark of curiosity lit within them. "Bring whoever it is to me," she whispered. Moments later, in the storm beyond the palace walls, a human ship lay broken across the sand. Its engines hissed with smoke. Inside, Captain Rylan Ward, an explorer from Earth, crawled out, clutching his injured arm. He had been lost in deep space for weeks, surviving on emergency oxygen and luck. His ship had crashed on what his scanner called an unregistered system. Before he could move, bright blue light surrounded him. Alien soldiers in silver armor appeared, weapons drawn. He raised his hands. "I come in peace," he shouted through the storm. "I'm not here to fight." They didn't understand his words. Instead, they bound his hands and carried him to the palace. Inside the grand chamber, Rylan was thrown to his knees before the queen. The air was thick with incense and sorrow. He looked up and froze. She was the most beautiful being he had ever seen, even in her weakness. Her face was luminous, her body surrounded by faint, shimmering energy, but it wasn't her beauty that struck him. It was the sadness in her eyes. The queen studied him carefully. Human," she murmured, her voice weak yet graceful. "You came from the blue world." "Earth," Rylan blinked. "You know about Earth?" Her counsel gasped at his words. A translator device was quickly brought near his mouth, adjusting the frequency so they could understand each other. The queen gave a tired smile. "Your kind visited long ago. Your blood carries something pure." The High Healer stepped forward, scanning Rylan with a glowing device. Suddenly, the machine started to hum wildly. Everyone gasped. The healer's voice shook. "My queen. His life force, it matches the resonance of your failing core." Siralith's eyes widened. "Impossible." The healer bowed deeply. "It is as the prophecy said. A foreign pulse shall awaken the dying star. His body carries the same energy pattern we have searched for centuries." The council erupted in arguments. "He's an outsider. It's blasphemy. We cannot trust a human." The queen silenced them with a wave of her trembling hand. "If he truly carries what we need, then perhaps the stars have sent him." Rylan frowned. "Look, I don't know what's going on here, but I didn't come to be part of anyone's experiment." The queen's voice softened. "You misunderstand, human. This is not about experiments. This is about life itself. My life and the life of my people." She stood weak but proud. "Our world is dying because our life gene has gone cold. Our kind can no longer bond and create life. The old writings say that only a being from the world of blue skies, a human, can reignite it." Rylan stared, confused. "You're saying only a human can save you?" Her gaze met his. "Yes, and not through war or machines, but through union, through the bond of life itself." He stepped back. "You mean—" He couldn't finish the sentence. The queen nodded slowly. "Only by joining with you in body and spirit can the life within me be reborn. Only then can my people live." Silence filled the chamber. Rylan looked around at the alien faces full of fear and desperation. He saw soldiers ready to strike, priests whispering prayers and the queen standing alone against death. He felt a pull inside him, not of desire, but of humanity. She wasn't a monster. She was a ruler, a woman burdened with the weight of a dying world. He took a breath and said quietly, "If what you say is true, then maybe fate brought me here for a reason." Her lips trembled. For the first time in years, the queen smiled, faintly like dawn after endless night. "Then perhaps the stars have not abandoned us," she whispered. Outside, thunder rolled across the red sky. Inside, for the first time in centuries, the queen's heart began to beat with a new rhythm, slow, fragile, and human. Rylan woke to the soft hum of alien machines. The air around him glowed faint blue, warm but strange. He was lying on a smooth bed of crystal. His wounds were gone. His body felt lighter, almost floating. He looked around. The room was curved like the inside of a giant shell. Transparent walls showed the red sky outside, where storms still moved over the dying city. Shadows of winged creatures flew through the mist. Then the door slid open without a sound. A tall alien figure entered, her robe shining like liquid silver. It was Queen Siralith. Her steps were slow but full of quiet strength. The light in her eyes was brighter than before. Rylan sat up quickly. "Where am I?" he asked. "You are in my healing chamber," she said softly. "You were injured. My people treated you." He rubbed his temples. "You said something about me saving your kind. I need you to explain that." The queen stopped near his bed. "Your body carries a signal, a pulse that connects to the energy inside me. Our healers tested your blood. It reacts to our life force. You are the key we've waited for." Rylan frowned. "Key to what?" She looked away, her voice trembling. "To life. To the rebirth of my world." Rylan stood up, shaking his head. "You're saying my DNA can somehow fix your species?" "I'm not a scientist. I'm just an explorer who crashed his ship." Siralith smiled sadly. "Perhaps fate made you more than that." Silence fell. Only the sound of the storm outside filled the room. Rylan turned toward the glowing window. "I came here to find new worlds," he said quietly. "Not to become part of one." Siralith stepped closer, her voice almost a whisper. "You think I wish this? You think I enjoy asking a stranger to share what no queen should beg for?" He looked back at her. There were tears in her glowing eyes, real tears. For a moment, she didn't look like an alien ruler. She looked like someone breaking under the weight of destiny. "I'm sorry," Rylan said softly. "I didn't mean to." She raised her hand gently. "You are human. You have a heart. That is why you were chosen, not because of your science, but because of your compassion." Rylan's mind raced. "If I refuse?" She closed her eyes. "Then I will die within days. And with me, my people. The balance of our world depends on the royal core. When it fades, the rest will follow." He stared at her in disbelief. "So if you die, your planet dies?" "Yes," she whispered. "Our bond with the world is spiritual, biological, and ancient. I am not only queen. I am the living link between my people and this planet." He felt something heavy twist inside him. She wasn't asking for power. She was asking for life itself. That night, he couldn't sleep. He walked through the long corridors of the alien palace. The walls pulsed faintly, alive with glowing veins of energy. Statues of ancient queens lined the halls, all with the same sad, noble eyes. He reached a high balcony. From there, he saw the city below. Huge towers of glass stood half-broken. The streets were empty. It looked like a civilization waiting for its final breath. Then he heard footsteps. Siralith was behind him, her robe fluttering in the wind. "I can't rest either," she said quietly. He turned toward her. "Why me? Why a human?" She looked at the stormy sky. "Long ago, our ancestors created life by merging energy from two worlds, one of stars, one of warmth. But the warmth was lost. Our kind grew colder with time. The old writings say that only a heart born under a blue sky can restore the spark." "A human heart," he whispered. She nodded. Yes, the wind howled through the towers. They stood together in silence. Finally, Rylan said, "If this connection happens, what does it mean for me?" Her eyes met his. "You will share my life force. It will drain you at first, but it may also change you. You will never be the same again." He smiled faintly. "You make it sound easy." "It isn't," she said. "It will take courage and choice." Rylan looked at her face, glowing faintly under the alien moonlight. She was beautiful, but not in a way humans knew. She was alive in every sense, fragile and powerful, ancient and new. He finally spoke. "If I do this, it won't be because your people demand it. It will be because you asked, not as a queen, but as someone who believes life still matters." Her lips parted, and for the first time she smiled. "Then perhaps you are not here by accident, Rylan, Ward of Earth." She stepped closer, her hand hovering near his chest. Their heartbeats synced for a moment, his fast and mortal, hers faint but endless. A pulse of light passed between them. Rylan gasped softly. "What was that?" "The beginning," she whispered. "The bond has chosen you." Outside, lightning cracked across the sky, forming strange symbols that glowed for a moment, symbols that had not been seen for 1,000 years. The prophecy had awakened. The palace was silent that night. Too silent. Even the wind outside seemed to hold its breath. Inside the chamber of life, the air shimmered like liquid light. Strange runes floated above the floor, forming a glowing circle of energy. Rylan stood at its center, bare arms trembling as alien symbols pulsed around him. His heart pounded, part fear and part awe. The queen stood opposite him, wrapped in silver robes that moved like mist. Her eyes were calm, but her hands shook slightly. "This is the ritual of resonance," whispered the high healer, standing near the edge of the chamber. "Once begun, it cannot be undone." Rylan swallowed hard. "And this will save her?" The healer nodded slowly. "If the prophecy is true." The queen took a deep breath. "Are you ready, Rylan, Ward of Earth?" He looked at her, not as a ruler now, but as a woman standing between hope and death. "I don't think anyone can be ready for this," he said quietly. "But I'll try," she smiled faintly. "Then let the stars witness." The floor lit up. A wave of blue light spread outward, surrounding them both. Rylan felt his skin prickle as warmth poured through him, not burning, filling. His heartbeat matched hers, faster and faster, until they became one rhythm. Images began to flash before his eyes. He saw her memories. Endless wars, broken lands, the sorrow of losing children she could never have. Then he saw her alone in the throne room, whispering prayers to the stars that never answered. At the same time, she saw his past, his small apartment on Earth, his sister's laughter, the loneliness of deep space missions. Their souls brushed against each other like light touching water. Rylan gasped. "You're showing me everything." Her voice echoed in his mind. "It's not me. It's the bond." Their energy spun together, spiraling upward into a column of light that touched the ceiling. The healer stepped back, shielding his face. "It's working. Her life force is stabilizing." The queen cried out softly as the glow around her body grew brighter, almost blinding. Her heart, once weak, now thundered with strength. But at the same time, Rylan felt himself weakening. His knees buckled. "Stop!" the healer shouted. "The human is taking too much strain." Saralith's voice broke through the storm of light. "No, if we stop now, it will all fail." She reached out, pressing her palm against Rylan's chest. A rush of warmth surged between them, steadying his pulse. He felt her energy flow into him, and his flow back into her. 2 lives, 1 heartbeat. When the light finally faded, Rylan collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. The queen fell beside him, her hand still on his arm. For a moment the chamber was silent except for the sound of their breathing. Then the healer whispered, voice full of wonder. "Her pulse. It's strong again. The queen lives." But outside the chamber, anger was already spreading. The palace guards murmured to one another. The priests tore off their ceremonial veils. One of them shouted, "She has tainted the royal blood. A human has defiled the sacred line." Word spread through the city like fire. Citizens poured into the streets shouting against their queen. "The human must die. Purge the outsider." Inside, Rylan tried to stand. "What's happening out there?" The healer hesitated. "They fear what they don't understand. They think your bond with her is blasphemy." Saralith pushed herself up weakly. "Let them fear. I will show them mercy. As you showed me." Rylan stared at her. "Mercy? They want to kill you." She turned to him, her glowing eyes fierce. "Then they will learn what true life means. Not through war, but through the light we've created together." Moments later, they stepped out onto the balcony. Thousands of aliens filled the square below, shouting and waving banners of rebellion. The night sky flashed with energy blasts as guards tried to hold the line. Ryland's body still ached, but he stood beside her. "If you go out there, they'll kill you," he said. She looked at him calmly. "They already tried death for centuries. Now I'll try hope." And then before his eyes, the queen raised her hands to the sky. A surge of radiant power burst from her body, illuminating the entire city. The storms above parted, revealing the stars for the first time in decades. Gasps filled the crowd. Flowers began to bloom in the cracks of the dead stone. The very air seemed to breathe again. The people fell silent. The priests dropped their weapons. Even the wind bowed before her. Beside her, Ryland whispered, "What did you do?" She smiled, weak but bright. "I reminded them that life is not sin." But deep in the crowd, a shadow moved. A figure cloaked in black, raising a strange weapon toward the balcony. Ryland's instincts kicked in. "Get down!" A flash. A blast of energy cut through the air. The queen gasped as Ryland threw himself in front of her. The bolt hit his shoulder, burning through armor and flesh. He fell, the world spinning. Saralith screamed his name, her power erupting like a storm once again. The palace burned with blue fire. Outside its crystal walls, the city of Velnora echoed with shouts of rage and fear. The rebellion had begun. The people chanted beneath the queen's balcony, voices full of hatred and confusion. "Purge the outsider. The queen has betrayed the stars." Flames licked the temple towers. The scent of smoke and ozone filled the air. Inside the grand chamber, Queen Saralith stood beside the bed where Ryland lay unconscious. His shoulder was wrapped in glowing bandages, his face pale. The blast had nearly killed him. His breathing was shallow but steady. She touched his cheek gently, her voice breaking. "You gave your blood for me, and they call you cursed." Her advisor, the high healer, entered hurriedly. "My queen, the rebels have broken through the outer gate. The council demands that you surrender the human. They say it's the only way to calm the people." Saralith turned, eyes blazing with violet fire. "Surrender him? After he gave me life?" "Never." The healer bowed his head. "They fear what they cannot understand. You must protect the line of succession." "The line of succession means nothing," she snapped. "What use is a throne built on fear?" Her voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. Outside, the rebellion spread faster than lightning. Priests led the mobs, shouting that the queen had broken sacred law. Soldiers, once loyal, now hesitated, torn between faith and duty. Ryland stirred on the bed. His eyes fluttered open, clouded with pain. "Saralith?" She rushed to his side. "You're alive. Don't move, the wound isn't healed." He tried to sit up. "What's happening out there?" She hesitated. "My people. They're afraid of what we've done." He gave a bitter laugh. "Afraid that life returned? They think I've tainted the blood of our ancestors," she whispered. Ryland took her hand. "Then show them what that blood truly means." Moments later, she walked out into the palace courtyard. The mob gasped when they saw her, alive, radiant, and defiant. Energy rippled across her skin like light dancing on water. "People of Valera," she shouted. Her voice carried across the city. "You call me cursed. You call him defiler. But look around you." She raised her hand, and the withered trees nearby burst into bloom, their petals glowing softly in the dark. The ground, cracked from drought, shimmered with new streams of water. "This is what your fear has kept from you," she cried. "This is life reborn through courage, not hatred." For a moment, silence. Then an angry voice from the crowd. "You lie. He poisons your mind. He poisons our world." Another shouted, "The queen must be cleansed." Energy weapons were raised. Ryland, leaning weakly on the balcony rail, shouted, "Stop! She's trying to save you." Blasts of plasma streaked the air, exploding against the palace shields. Guards rushed to form a barrier. The queen's heart pounded, not from fear but fury. "You will not harm him," she said, her voice low and trembling. "You will not harm the one who gave me life." Her power erupted. A wave of violet energy rippled outward, pushing the attackers back without killing them. Lightning danced from her fingertips, splitting the sky, not as destruction but as warning. The crowd fell to its knees, trembling. One of the priests crawled forward. You wield forbidden energy." Saralith glared down. "Forbidden only to those who forgot mercy." She lowered her hands. The storm around her slowly calmed. Flowers continued to bloom across the battlefield, glowing blue like fallen stars. The rebel stared in awe. Ryland limped to her side, blood still staining his tunic. You didn't kill them, he said quietly. She looked at him. No, they needed to see another way. He smiled faintly. That's very human of you, she tilted her head. Perhaps humanity is contagious, but peace didn't last. Deep in the shadows of the city, the remaining council members gathered. Their leader, Archon Valar, spoke coldly. The Queen has broken every sacred code. Her compassion has made her weak. If we don't stop her now, she will lead our kind to extinction. He placed a crystal shard on the table. Inside it flickered a dark energy, the power of the old gods. Tomorrow, Valar said, we strike the palace. The Queen will die, and her bond with the human will die with her. Back in the palace, the Queen stood beside Rylan on the balcony. The night was calm again, the stars brighter than before. He whispered, "They'll come again." "I know," she said. "But now they've seen what life can be." He looked at her glowing hand resting gently on his. "You could run. You could save yourself," she shook her head. "A queen does not run from her people, even when they turn against her." He smiled sadly. "You're braver than I'll ever be." Her eyes softened. "You're wrong, Rylan, Ward of Earth. It was your courage that woke mine." The two of them stood together as the first light of dawn broke through the clouds. For a moment, peace felt real. But far below, in the city's depths, the drums of war began again. The fires of rebellion had faded, leaving only smoke and silence over Velnora. The once roaring city now glimmered in a strange peace, a fragile calm built on fear, faith, and wonder. Inside the Silver Palace, the Queen walked through long corridors alone. The scent of burned crystal and ozone lingered in the air. Guards bowed as she passed, though their eyes were full of questions. Whispers followed her everywhere.
She walks beside the human still.
He should have been banished. Yet the air smells clean again. For the first time in generations, the planet's skies had turned blue. Rivers flowed again. Trees had bloomed in deserts that had been dead for a century. The prophecy was no longer myth. It was living proof. But the council refused to accept it. That morning, the throne hall filled with tension. The Queen stood before her high council, 12 elders in black robes. Rylan stood a few steps behind her, his arm still in a sling but his eyes steady. Elder Valar, the council leader, slammed his staff against the floor. "Your Majesty," he said coldly, "your actions may have healed the land, but they have poisoned tradition. You bonded with a human. You brought impurity into the royal line." The Queen's voice was calm but sharp. "Purity did not save our world. Life did," another elder hissed. "You risk everything for this outsider." Saralith's eyes glowed faintly. "He is not an outsider. He is the bridge between our extinction and our future. Without him I would be dust," Valar sneered. "Then perhaps dust would have been better than disgrace." At that, Rylan stepped forward. "If my presence offends your pride, then punish me, not her. I didn't come here to steal a throne. I came to survive a crash. And I ended up saving lives." The room went silent. The Queen turned to him slowly, her expression unreadable, but her eyes burned with emotion. Valar's voice cut through again. "Then prove your loyalty, human. Leave her. Leave this world. Return to your kind and end this shame." Rylan met his gaze. "No." Gasps filled the chamber. He walked closer to the Queen. "I won't leave her. Not after what we've shared. You can hate me, you can exile me, but I won't turn my back on her life or this planet's rebirth." Saralith took his hand, ignoring the murmurs. Her fingers trembled, but her voice was steady. "You speak as if you were born of our stars." Rylan smiled faintly. "Maybe now I am." The council erupted in chaos, shouting curses and prayers, but Saralith's voice thundered over them. "Enough. You speak of purity while your hands are soaked in centuries of failure. You let our children die because you feared change. This human gave us what you could not, hope." Her energy flared, shaking the hall. The elders fell silent. She stepped forward, lifting her chin high. "Hear me now. I name Captain Rylan, Ward of Earth, as my consort of life. His blood shall be part of our royal line. His courage shall be written into our history. Let any who oppose this step forward." No one moved. The Queen's gaze swept over them, daring them to speak. Then she turned and took Rylan's hand again. Together, they walked out of the hall, not as ruler and prisoner, but as partners. Later, in the quiet of her private garden, Sarilith and Rylan stood under glowing trees. The air shimmered softly, carrying the scent of new blossoms. "I've made you a target," she said quietly. "You know that, don't you?" He smiled. "I've been one since I met you." She laughed gently, in the first true laugh in years. "Then you are braver than the stars themselves." He looked around at the glowing flowers. "It's beautiful. And terrifying. I never thought I'd belong anywhere like this." She touched his chest. "You don't belong here, Rylan. You belong with me." Her eyes glowed brighter. "Our bond is still incomplete. The prophecy speaks of union, not just of spirit but of creation, the rebirth of the royal line." He understood what she meant. His pulse quickened. "You mean a child?" She nodded. "A life born of two worlds. Proof that peace can exist between what was never meant to meet." He took a step closer. "Then let it be by choice and not destiny." The Queen smiled, soft, human, and full of warmth. "By choice," she whispered. As they stood together beneath the silver leaves, a single drop of light fell from the sky and touched the ground, sprouting instantly into a flower glowing in both blue and gold. The bond between them deepened, silent and eternal, and somewhere in the palace, the healer's crystals pulsed with a new signal, faint but unmistakable. The palace of Velnora was quiet again, but this time, it was not silence born of fear. It was the stillness before a miracle. Months had passed since Queen Sarilith's declaration. Her body glowed brighter with each dawn, her presence stronger than ever. Yet behind the beauty of her growing light, the court whispered of forbidden life, of a child that should not exist. The healers called it the pulse anomaly. The priests called it blasphemy. But the Queen called it what it truly was, hope. Rylan stayed by her side every day. He had become part of the palace, no longer a prisoner or guest, but something between protector, partner, father-to-be. He had learned their language, their customs, even their fears. And through it all, he watched Sarilith's strength rise like the morning sun. One evening, as crimson light filled the garden, Rylan placed a hand on her stomach. A faint warmth pulsed under his touch. "She's real," he whispered. "I can feel her." Sarilith smiled softly, her silver hair catching the last rays of light. "She?" He nodded. "I think so. Just a feeling." Her fingers brushed his cheek. "Then she will be like you, guided by feeling." But even as they shared that quiet joy, shadows gathered in the council halls below. In a secret chamber, Archon Velar stood before the other elders. The air shimmered with dark energy. "The Queen carries an abomination," he hissed. "Half human, half divine. If it lives, our blood will never be pure again." A younger counselor hesitated. "But the world heals, my lord. The skies are blue again. The seas have returned." Velar's eyes burned. "At what cost?" "Our people bow to a stranger. Soon our children will have his face." He raised a black crystal glowing faintly with forbidden power. "We end this before it begins." That same night, Rylan woke to the sound of thunder. He rushed to the balcony and froze. Lightning tore across the sky, turning the clouds blood red. Below, the palace gates exploded. Dark-cloaked soldiers stormed the courtyard, carrying weapons humming with ancient energy. He turned back to the bed where Sarilith sat up, eyes wide with pain. Her skin glowed fiercely. The child's birth had begun. "Rylan," she gasped. "They're here. It's time." He ran to her side, taking her hand. "We'll make it through this." "I promise." The healers burst into the room. "Your Majesty, you must move to the inner chamber. The energy surge is destabilizing." Outside explosions shook the walls. Velar's voice echoed through the halls. "End the impurity. End the false queen." Rylan lifted Sarilith in his arms, carrying her through the shimmering corridors. The lights flickered as the palace trembled. He kicked open the doors to the heart chamber, where the world's core energy pulsed like a living sun. The healers formed a circle, chanting softly. Sarilith's glow brightened, almost blinding. She gripped Rylan's hand tightly. "Don't leave me." "Never," he said. As the ritual began, the walls shook again. Soldiers broke through the outer gate. Rylan turned, grabbing a fallen guard's weapon, a blade of pure light. He stood at the entrance, ready. Velar appeared, his robe torn, his eyes wild. "You, the human parasite. You've doomed us all." Rylan raised the blade. "Funny, I thought I was saving you." Velar roared and charged, striking with a blast of dark energy. The impact threw Rylan backward, pain searing through his chest. But he rose again, fueled by something greater than fear, by love. He swung the blade, cutting through the air. Sparks flew as light clashed against darkness. Behind him, the queen screamed, not in fear, but in life. A burst of radiant energy exploded from the chamber, throwing everyone to the ground. When Rylan opened his eyes, the air shimmered with gold and blue light. The healers wept. The storm outside had vanished. In the center of the room, Siralith cradled a small child wrapped in glowing silk. Her skin was pale blue, her tiny fingers curled around her mother's. But her eyes were human. Siralith smiled through tears. She's breathing. She's perfect. Rylan knelt beside her, his body trembling. The child looked at him and made a small sound, half cry, half hum, a tone that resonated through the chamber like a song. The healers bowed. The prophecy is complete. The child of two worlds is born. Outside, the people who had come to kill their queen looked up at the sky. The red clouds were gone. Streams of light spread across the horizon, painting the heavens gold. Flowers bloomed through the ashes. Rivers glowed. The planet itself seemed to breathe again. Valar crawled to his knees, staring at the newborn's light. His weapon turned to dust in his hands. "What have we done?" he whispered. Rylan held the child close, his voice soft. "You've witnessed life, Valar. Remember it." That night, as calm returned, Siralith and Rylan sat together beside the newborn's cradle. The little one slept peacefully, her heartbeat strong. Siralith leaned against him. "She will never belong to one world," she said quietly. He kissed her hand. "Then maybe she'll belong to all of them." The queen smiled, eyes glistening. "Her name shall be Alaris, the light that bridges two hearts." Outside the window, twin moons rose over a world reborn. The twin suns rose over Velnora, painting the sky gold and violet. The planet, once a dying wasteland, now pulsed with life. Rivers shimmered like molten silver, and forests whispered in the wind once more. The prophecy had been fulfilled, but inside the Silver Palace, peace was fragile. The queen had grown weaker since the birth of Alaris and the child of two worlds. The glow that once surrounded her had dimmed, fading with every passing day. Rylan sat beside her bed, his hand wrapped around hers. Her skin was cold, yet her touch was gentle as always. The faint hum of the child's heartbeat echoed through the room, a rhythm that somehow kept the palace alive. "You shouldn't sit here all night," Siralith whispered, her voice soft as the breeze. Rylan smiled sadly. "I don't want to miss a second with you." She gazed at him, tired but filled with warmth. "You humans, always holding on to the moment, afraid to let it pass." "Maybe," he said, his voice low, "but I already lost too much before I found you." Her eyes softened. "And I found everything in you." In the garden beyond, Alaris slept in a cradle of crystal light. Her presence made the air shimmer. Every flower leaned toward her, every creature watched over her. The priests called her the living star, but the council, humbled and fearful, stayed silent now. Valar had vanished after his defeat, leaving behind a single message carved into the temple wall. "The light of two worlds burns brightest before it fades." The queen knew what it meant. Her bond with the human had saved the planet, but it had come with a cost. Her life force was slowly merging with her child's, feeding her growth, sustaining the new balance. Rylan knew it too. He saw it every morning in her fading glow, in the way her voice grew quieter, in the way her eyes lingered on the child longer each day. One night, he found her standing alone on the balcony, looking up at the stars. The wind carried strands of her silver hair into the light. "You shouldn't be out of bed," he said softly. She smiled faintly. "Do you hear them, Rylan?" He frowned. "Hear what?" "The stars. They're singing again." He stepped beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "That's just the wind." She shook her head. "No, it's the heartbeat of life returning. Every world in our galaxy is connected by that rhythm. When ours stopped, the others grew cold. Now, they're waking up." He looked at her, realizing this wasn't just about her people anymore. What they had done had changed more than one world. Siralith turned to him, eyes glistening. "You've given me more than life, Rylan, Ward of Earth. You've given meaning to our existence. And you've shown me what humanity really is," he said quietly. "It's not just in us. It's in everything that chooses compassion over fear. Her lips trembled. Then promise me something. Anything. When I'm gone, take her to your world. Show her both skies. Let her know she was born from love, not prophecy. He gripped her hands tightly. You're not going anywhere. But even as he said it, he felt the truth in her fading warmth. Hours later, as dawn approached, the palace lights flickered. The child stirred in her cradle, crying softly. The queen gasped, clutching her chest. Siralith! Rylan cried, catching her as she fell. Her body glowed faintly, not with life, but with release. Energy flowed from her into the air, surrounding the child in a cocoon of gold and silver light. Don't fight it, the healers shouted. She's transferring her essence. Rylan held her close, his voice breaking. Stay with me, please. She smiled weakly, tears glimmering like stars. I'm not leaving, Rylan. I'm just becoming part of her. He shook his head, heart breaking. You don't have to. Her fingers touched his lips. You taught me what it means to love without fear. Let me give that to her. The light grew blinding. Her body turned into radiant mist, drifting toward the cradle. The baby's cry turned into a soft hum, the same sound that had awakened life before. And then, silence. Rylan knelt before the cradle, tears streaming down his face. Inside, the child slept peacefully, wrapped in the glow of her mother's essence. A single whisper filled the air, Siralith's voice, faint but clear. Promise me she will know both stars, hers and yours. He bowed his head. I promise. Years later, on Earth, a young girl ran across a green meadow under the blue sky. Around her neck hung a small crystal pendant, glowing faintly with violet light. An older Rylan watched from a distance, smiling through tears. The child laughed, reaching up at the sky. Daddy, the stars are singing again, she shouted. He looked up, and for a moment, he thought he heard it too, a soft hum in the wind. Like the heartbeat of a distant queen watching over them, he whispered to the sky, You saved your world, Siralith, and you saved mine. The sun broke through the clouds, bathing them both in light.